Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 18th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see our next storm system off the coastline here. It'll be making its way on in through the day today and on in through tonight across much of the Pacific Northwest. We can expect some blustery conditions there, especially across some of the higher terrain, and a pretty good westerly surge coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Some windy conditions for the coastal areas here. Not a major windstorm, however. And if you look off to the south, you can kind of see how this storm is going to be actually picked up. The California storm here is going to actually kind of merge with this one and move up and across the area here. So we're going to get some rainfall, some snow for the higher elevations, maybe even down towards Snoqualmie Pass. Better chance the higher you go in the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, British Columbia as well, and some windy conditions in through Idaho. Taking a look at the fog out there, it is actually kind of foggy here across some of the Puget Sound also. It's not showing up too well here, but you can see some of that dense fog out there towards Pasco, the Tri-Cities, and down towards Redmond, probably Bend, Oregon also. And you can see some of the Willamette Valley, the fog bubbling around there as well as we start to get some mid-level clouds from the system to the south. And you can clearly see our next storm system off to the left of the screen. This is looking at the National Weather Service, Pendleton, Oregon. You see snow returns to the Cascades here, mainly above 3,500 feet here, and heavy accumulations above 5,500 feet. So heads up if you're going back and forth out there in the backcountry or across some of the passes. This was issued this morning. Here we go with the current hazards. We got winter weather advisories for the Washington Cascades down through the Oregon Cascades, some dense fog advisories as we saw as well. And the wind advisory does exist out here for some of the lower elevations of Idaho. Some gusts into the 40s are possible with that. Mountain Pass snow here. National Weather Service Spokane. You can see Stevens up to 7 inches, Washington up to 4 inches here, and just light accumulations. Snoqualmie maybe a couple inches, but should be okay out there. The snowplows will probably have an easier time keeping anything that does fall off the roadway. Shouldn't be anything too heavy there across Snoqualmie Pass, but keep that in mind, especially on Sunday morning. Going across I-90 out there, you might see some of the snow sticking to the roadway out there. This was issued yesterday evening. This is some snowfall here for southern Oregon. You see Crater Lake 8 to 12 inches there. Maybe a little bit on I-5. You're going back and forth between California and Oregon, but should not accumulate to much. And you can see mainly above 4,000 feet here. So, always keep update with your local forecast out there and pay attention. Check the tripcheck.com out there for latest road conditions. And if you want a nice, affordable home weather station, click on that link down below to save 10% off. It's always much more fun to watch the weather roll in when you've got a weather station on your place of residence. Now, taking a look at last night's European run. This is the 100-meter wind speeds. You can see the storm off the coast, California, the offshore flow that's been here across the Pacific Northwest are allowing for some foggy conditions. Actually, some gusty winds through the gorge there in the Stampede Gap area as well. Nothing too wild, but you can see as we go through the day today, this next storm system arrives and starts bringing its gusty winds with it. And recent models have backed off on the strength of some of this wind on the Oregon-Washington coastline here. We can still see some pretty gusty winds on Vancouver Island. Nice surge coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. The Europeans backed off on that somewhat as well. And some pretty strong winds across the higher terrain also. We'll look at some of that here in a moment. You can see the strong winds across some of southern Idaho also. And then we see another system trying to get in here as we get towards midweek here. And it's going to bring some rainfall with it. We'll look at those details as we go through the video here. This is accumulated max 10-meter wind gust. We're just going to kind of push through this pretty quick. You can see Seattle right around 35 there. Probably some mid-40s here for the Strait of Juan de Fuca, maybe some mid-40s for the coastline of Washington, Oregon, Vancouver Island, kind of windier there. You can see some 50-plus mile-per-hour gusts. And some of the higher terrain of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, are going to be downright windy, like places like Crater Lake here and out to the Naches, the higher terrain off on the east side of Mount Rainier, for example. Now, taking a look at the wave height, might be some good wave watching tomorrow on the coast. So if you'll watch this roll in here as we go on in through the day this Sunday morning, you can see some pretty good wave action bumping up against the coastline here with that system as it arrives. And then we start to bring things back down as that next front will start to roll in as we go midweek. You can see some of that wave action kind of weakening as it gets towards the Washington, Oregon coastline there. Now, taking a look at total precipitation, European, this is in inches. And as we go through the day today, you can see the start across some of southern Oregon first as we go through the afternoon, then eventually up the coastline here as we go through this evening, then into Washington, and eventually Portland and Seattle here as we go through the nighttime hours, and better amounts across the Oregon Cascades here, some of southwest Oregon, the higher terrain as well, the Olympic Mountains getting a nice shot of precipitation here. It could be snow at the higher elevation there also, and then you can kind of see as we go on in through Monday, late Sunday night into Monday morning, that precipitation from this storm should be wrapping up. You can see Seattle finishing with right around 1/4 of an inch, and the rain shadowing effect going on for some of eastern Washington, although it does bring some light precip to some areas. Now, taking a look here, this is Whidbey Island. You can see backed off a little bit here, 48 miles per hour on the most recent European control run. Still has some of the ensemble runs with a gust over 50 miles per hour. So pretty blustery, windy westerly winds coming down the street of Juan de Fuca. You might be kicking up some big waves there, especially for western portions of Whidbey Island also. And this is looking at the NAM 3KM. You can see early Sunday morning, it starts to gust in the mid 40s there. So that's when the wind's going to pick up. And you can see how it changes from southerly to westerly here as you go through the early portion of Sunday morning. Now, here's looking at Astoria, kind of just a typical blustery November system, nothing too crazy, no major windstorms. Talking about some gusts in the mid to upper 30s potentially. But here you go on the higher terrain, eastern portion of the Cascades, and you can see some gusts showing up over 60 miles per hour. The control run says 53 out there. So watch out if you're in the higher terrain west of Yakima, for example, off in the backcountry there. I'll take a look at Tillamook, something similar to Astoria, mid 30s, maybe up towards a 40 mile per hour gust there for some of the Oregon coast. Crater Lake, though, look at that. 59 showing up in the latest control run there, and pretty good ensemble agreement with the gusty winds, strong winds coming across the area. Once you hit 58, that becomes a high wind, so watch out for that. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see some mid 30s showing up. A few of these ensemble runs do have gusts up towards 40 miles per hour, which you can't completely rule out some nuisance power outages because of, but not a major windstorm incoming. And you can see where the strongest winds are supposed to occur here somewhere early Sunday morning. You can see anytime after midnight, the wind starts gusting up over 30 miles per hour, probably peaking in the mid 30s there early Sunday morning. It might wake some of you guys up. Now, this is looking off into Idaho, and you can kind of see some of these gusts across some of the valley areas, Boise, Twin Falls, maybe some gusts up into the mid 40s showing there, and some pretty big winds roaring across the Rockies here as this low pressure system moves through as we go on in through this weekend. This is looking at the accumulated max 10 meter wind gusts on the European, a little bit better there, right around Twin Falls there, some gusts into the upper 40s there, maybe towards 50 miles per hour also in Boise, probably in the upper 30s towards 40 miles per hour, and there are wind advisories out there for gusts up to 55, including the higher terrain. Now, this is looking at mean sea level pressure on the European. You can see that storm off the coast of California, and you can see the developing storm off our coastline as well. It kind of kicks up here, and it's got a good pressure gradient on the backside of it. So that's what's going to kick up some of these winds as we go in through the morning, Sunday morning. Almost an 8 millibar gradient, pressure gradient there between Seattle and Portland, which could cause some 40-plus mile per hour gusts here. So something to watch here. Strong pressure rise behind that system. Then you can really see that ridge move in the area, kind of set up over the Great Basin here. And this next system will also probably bring us some rainfall here as well as we go on in through the early to mid portion of this week coming up. We'll check out some of that starting here. You can see Hoquiam, 1 inch in a 24-hour period all the way through Sunday. And then that next system you can see showing up there, probably about 0.4 of an inch according to the European. And Seattle also going to get some rain from that secondary system. We're showing about 1/3 of an inch for each system as we go on into the mid portion of next week. Now looking at total snow ratio, total snow Kuchera ratio here, I should say. You can see Oregon Cascades getting some nice amounts for the higher terrain. You can see Snoqualmie Pass, maybe an inch or two, better amounts at Stevens, and again 3,500 feet or higher. So once you go outside of Snoqualmie Pass, there maybe the Kendall Catwalk if you're out across Pacific Coast Trail this time of year, or some of the higher ski areas around some of the Central Cascades, you're probably going to get better snowfall amounts out of this. As you can see, some pretty good amounts showing up there as well. Now, taking a look at the GFS, this is hot off the press. Let me update this so we can get all the most recent data. It is running as we speak. There goes our low pressure system this morning right off the coastline there, and pretty decent pressure rise behind that. Some snow for the higher terrain all the way through British Columbia, Rocky Mountains of Idaho, Montana as that system moves through. And then we got a very strong low pressure system kind of moving in towards southern Alaska. And that's what's going to help bring this rainfall as we go on in through next week. As you can see that sag down across the area there. So we'll watch that system, kind of see if we're going to get any uptrend in that over the next couple of days as well. And then we build this ridge over the area, and we're going to get a bit of a break here, and we'll wait to break this down a little bit. You can see some Arctic air actually coming down across northern Alaska, across Northwest Territories and the Yukon, kind of mainly staying east of the Rockies there, but that does come down across the area. We'll watch that in a little bit more detail here coming up. No threat of any kind of Arctic air or lowland snow for the Pacific Northwest through the foreseeable future. And as we go towards the end of November, maybe some systems start to come back here, but we'll watch this day by day for changes. You can see the Gulf of Alaska troughing get going here near the end of the GFS run. Here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation probability outlook. Break looks like it's coming here, but as always, we take this grain of salt and we're going to be breaking it down day by day to see if any changes do occur. And here's the temperature probability outlook here, above average for much of the Pacific Northwest as well. So anyway, yeah, I might go out there tomorrow morning and check out the waves on the coast, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's been trending downwards a little bit here, but you can clearly see the storm system out here that will be moving in as we go through the nighttime hours tonight and on and through tomorrow morning, bring some gusty winds across the area. So anyway, hope you guys are liking the videos. Channel's doing great here. Thanks for everybody that stops by daily to check out these videos. Click like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.